Have you seen the photos and heard the horror stories of people out on the road losing their wheels? You see it on caravans, boat trailers. Feel sorry for the poor buggers that are out there, lost a wheel because of the faulty wheel bearings. All comes down to essential caravan maintenance. In this video, I'm going to run through and show you how I prepare a caravan for a trip away. Whether it's a weekend away or around Australia like we are, you want to make sure your caravan is fit for purpose and safe to get out on those roads. Whether you're going 50 k's, 100 k's or 3 or 4 or 5,000 k's, you need to make sure that it's safe, and a little bit of maintenance is going to make sure that you can do that without any mishaps while you're out on the road. Yeah, sometimes those things are going to happen when you're out there, and that happens. That's just Murphy's Law. If it's going to happen, it'll happen. But a couple of quick easy tips here and show you how we prepare our van that you can do yourself. It's all DIY, but these little tips here can help you out and save you a few dollars as well. But let's get into this. We'll rip this tyre off and start with the wheel bearings, which is the #1 thing for keeping the show on the road. And while you're out in the bush, you may not have a little trolley jack like this with you either. It might be a little bottle jack or the jack that come with your caravan. You always need to make sure you're doing it safe. If you're in wet ground or something, that jack's not going to sink, and level ground, so it's not going to fall over once you got 2.5 or 3 tonne of caravan sitting on top of that little point. First up, everybody should know how to change a wheel. I'm not going to run through the details there. I've chopped the wheels on the other side, I've jacked it up. I'm going to get an axle stand underneath there just to support it. Even though we're only going to have it off for a couple of minutes, taking shortcuts that might come back to bite you if the whole thing falls off the jack or something happens with the jack. So always going to make sure it's supported when you've got that wheel off. So once we've got it jacked up, the first thing you want to do is just give it a spin. Make sure it's spinning freely. You can just hear the brakes just touching on the inside there. But grab the wheel and give it a really good shake. See if there's any movement there, which there's none. That's the first check done. Then we'll move on to checking the wheel bearings. I did do the bearings about 6 months ago, so I know the bearings are right, but I do want to check that, and we'll just run through how I go about checking the wheel bearings. Quick and easy once you get the wheel off the ground, but mainly I want to get in there and check the brakes. I just haven't had the drum right off just to double check the brake linings and make sure everything's 100% there, because once we're out in the middle of whoop whoop somewhere around Australia, we might not have access to parts, or we'll be able to get them easily enough wherever we are. So do these couple of things now, we'll run through it all. We'll get this done first. This is probably the most major part of any essential maintenance that you want to be doing on your caravan. So we'll get this off first, check all this and get it back on, tensioned up, and then we'll run through everything else that we need to check before we hit the road. While you've got your tyre off, just go right around it, double check for wear. We do run the iCheck TPMS, and we can keep an eye on that, monitor our pressures at all times. We're not sponsored or affiliated with them, but I do love those iCheck tyre pressure monitors. While we had the wheel off the ground there, just spinning it, I couldn't hear any funny noises. Everything was nice and smooth. Now you have got the handbrake off, that's why the wheels are chocked on the other side, but there's definitely no play in there. Just the tiniest little bit, which is good. You don't want them over tight because then they heat up. To get to your brakes in behind there, we do have to pull that hub off to see exactly what's going on in behind. To get the hub off, you can just knock it on the side sometimes, but I don't like doing that because it can damage it, and then you need a whole new cap. Usually get a screwdriver in there to get it started. That's it. It's beautiful and clean, which means there's been no dust or water or anything getting in there. Now you want to open up that pin so that you can remove the castle nut. It can be a bit of a messy job. Make sure you've got plenty of rags on hand. So because I know where the pin was, I'm just going to put a mark on there for reference, so we know once we put it all back on, if it goes back in the same spot, Perfect, otherwise we'll have to adjust it. But that is perfect where it is. Big shifting spanner. You can be doing this out on the side of the track, so always a good idea, and a tip is just to lay an old tarp out or something so that you're not dropping all your bits in the dirt and the dust, and then that's possibly going to go back on with dirt and dust in there and act like sandpaper as you're roaring down the highway. So that's ready to pull the hub off, and we can see what's exactly is going on with the brakes. Sometimes you can get a lip on the back of the drum which gets caught on the brake shoe and stop it coming out. There we go. I will inspect the bearing. Like I said, I've done these about 6 months ago, full repack, and I do always carry spare bearings. I've got 2 bearings, full seals and everything, the full kit, just in case we have bearing failure out on the road somewhere. We can easily replace it, and in an hour we're going again. But that bearing is still spot on like brand new. You look for any little pitting on there, bits of pitting, brown marks where it might have got hot, but everything's in good condition there. When we put that back on, I will just pack some new grease into there. The drum will come off. There's been no water in there at all. You'll see if there's had water in there, it'll go a little bit milky, but that still looks like the day I put it back on. Now you're always gonna end up with lots of dust and contamination in around there, which that's inevitable. That's going to happen because the brakes are a wearing part. You're always going to get lots of brake dust, which is this good stuff here. So the main thing I wanted to have a look at on here was the brake shoes themselves. There's still plenty of meat on there yet. There's no need to be replacing them. And I know all of this was new, like I said, 2.5 years ago when we bought the van second hand. It had all been fully serviced just before we bought it. But the main thing I wanted to have a look at was the magnet. That is your magnet there, which with your electric brakes magnifies this, causing it to stick to the inside of your drum, which expands your brake shoes out and puts pressure up into here on the edge of your drum. There's no grooves or any abnormal wear in there. Everything still looks spot on to me. Everything looks good. The main thing was this magnet is what I wanted to check, because they can get uneven wear on them, and I know the brake when we're towing from the ute still works spot on, but I just wanted to check this in case I needed to get spares before we hit the road full time. Everything still looks really good there. The seal on the inside, there's a little bit of grease coming out past it, but that's not a bad thing. And that's probably why there is a little bit of grease around on the inside of there. But we'll put a little bit of fresh grease in there and put it back on. Because there's plenty of other videos out there on YouTube and around the place showing you how to replace all your bearings. I'm not going to go into that detail because we'll be here for a while. It is a bit of a process, even though it's easy enough. If you need to look at how to replace bearings, either go to a professional that can do it for you, or check out some of those other videos on YouTube. But today it's quick and easy DIY maintenance, just to make sure your trip is going to be a safe one, and you and your van are going to get there in one piece without any delays. Always carry a bit of grease. If you're going to carry wheel bearings with you, make sure you carry a bit of high temp bearing grease, because it's no good if you do a wheel bearing, you got new bearings, that's great, but if you don't have the grease with you as well, you're not going to get back on the road anytime soon. They reckon don't mix and match your grease. If there was other grease on there, this is the same grease as what I used last time, so it's fine just to put a bit of new grease in there, but otherwise you wouldn't want to be mixing your greases up. To pack a bit of new grease in that bearing, put a bit in your hand like that, and you just want to force that new grease up through the rollers. Once you get the grease pushing through like that there, you know you've got new grease all the way through those rollers. And with this washer, you've got a flat side and a rounded side. The flat side goes onto the bearing, the rounded side is the side where your castle nut sits up against on the outside. A bit of grease on the inside of that, you don't need too much. The nut can go back on. And while we're just looking at this here, I always check the wheel studs as well. That's another spare that I'll carry on our trip away around Australia for our new life, not just a trip, that's our new life. And no rush to go anywhere. If you want to follow along on our journey around Australia over the coming years, make sure you hit that subscribe button and tag along for the tour wherever we end up. Like I said, we're not going to be in any rush. Just poking around, working our way around Australia. We don't have the money just to travel non-stop, so we'll be pulling up and working here and there, which gives you time to explore those areas around Australia instead of just rushing around and missing a heap of things. So jump on board, follow the adventure. And with that castle nut, since we've had it all off, we'll just tighten it up. I can feel that's binding there now, so that's probably a little bit on the tight side. That's our mark that we put on there, and our hole for our pin is right there. I can feel that's just a touch on the tight side. Because I check these every 1,000 k's or so, better off being a little bit on the loose side than a bit on the tight side. The next hole was going to be too tight. So we'll put it back where it was and I'll check it. Next time we know we can always tighten it up that little bit more if need be. But I'd rather be a bit loose and the bearings run nice and cool than be too hot and the bearings run hot and then you have a bearing failure and your wheel comes off and you're stuck on the side of the road. Now I have got new pins to put in here. Always use a new pin, but just for the purpose of this, I'll put this old one back in for the time being. And I'll replace that once I get the others out from under the lounge in the van. Everything, all our spare parts are stored in there, which will be another video coming out very shortly on all the spare parts that we carry, just to make sure that we can travel comfortably and know that we've got everything we need, or most things we need anyway, to get us out of a tricky spot. I always like to use too much grease. I'm definitely not no motor mechanic, but I do know my way around some things, and if there's any mechanics watching, you're probably shaking your head about now. I always clean the grease off the outside so you know there was nothing on there to start with, and when you're out there travelling and you can do a quick inspection, walk around on as you pull up for a P-stop and you see excess grease or something around there, well, you know your dust cap might be coming loose. Another thing too, while you've got your wheel off, just have a look on the inside. Quite often it's hard to look on the inside, especially around your spokes or whatever type of wheels you're running. Just have a look over for any cracks. A quick visual there, especially while everything's dusty, and with a bit of movement, if there is a crack there, it might show up. But that's all looking good. So you've checked the tyres and the pressures and everything on the van, but don't forget about your spare as well. Always check that, check the pressures and the condition of it. That tyre's brand new, but it's over 2 years old, so just where the sun gets it, have a quick look over it, check for cracks in the sidewalls and all of that, and make sure that it's ready for use. So that's ready to go on. You don't want to spin them straight back on with your drill in case you cross thread them. Always start them by hand and then get the drill onto it. When you're putting them back on, don't just go around the circle, go diagonally around. 6 stud pattern, so go every second one and then swap over and go every second one again. So when you're out in the bush, you might not have access to one of these, but you can always find a couple of nice big rocks, cut a log or something that's going to stick underneath there and help support that weight, so it's not just relying on the jack. One thing I always do, and I do it religiously on the van and on the ute, is always torque those wheel nuts to the right torque. I used to have a bad habit of over tightening them The blokes at the tyre shops will be saying you're going to snap wheel studs or have other issues there by over tightening. So now make sure, always use a torque wrench. This is only a cheap one, 1/2 inch drive from Trade Tools, I think it was, for about 50 bucks. But it does the job. That's all you need for peace of mind and know that they're tensioned up right. Which I usually go to about 110 is what the bloke at the tyre shop recommended. So that's set to 110 there now. We'll just tension them up and that's this part of the job done. It's easy as that. 110 foot-pound I think it is, without my glasses on, is what they recommended at the tyre shop. And it only takes 5 minutes to run around your vehicle once a week, once a month, depending on how much driving you're doing. And after you do change a wheel, make sure you check it again the next time you pull up, just in case something's come loose. That's the wheel done. Now we'll jump underneath onto the suspension, quick inspection of the suspension, bit of grease in the bushes, and that's most of the dirty stuff done. So underneath we're running the Cruise Master XT suspension. All I want to go is have a look around underneath here, check for any cracks or anything major that stands out. Now this van has done the Gibb River Road. It's already been around Australia before we bought it, hence all the stone chips and everything. So it's proven itself and it's well and truly travelled, and it's going to do it again. So I'll have a detailed look under there. But talking about grease, on the front of these here, you've got 2 grease nipples on those arms, the trailing arms both sides. Just want to get a bit of grease into there. You don't want too much in there, just need enough till you hear it starting to squeeze out. You don't want grease coming out and dripping everywhere. There we go. So that's it. There's a bit of fresh grease just coming out there, and there's a bit hanging out from up underneath there. On the back edge, and just check your shocks too. Check the mounts, make sure that everything's tight, nothing's loose. Do that on both sides. Because this has had an ATM upgrade, it's got a big heavy box section system that bolts up underneath where the old Jayco suspension used to go. So everything is solid as a brick, you know what. Also, while we're rolling around underneath the van, they've got a creeper there that I normally do it on. But I just run around and check the mounts on the water tanks. Make sure everything's safe and secure. All your plumbing's tight. There's no leaks anywhere. Do that front and back. Check your gas lines. Everything's clipped up right. Water lines. Everything looks good. I'll do that front and back. Quick 5-minute roll around underneath and just double check everything. And the whole time looking at the chassis as well. Probably one of the most important parts of your whole van is once you come up the front, there's huge stress points around here. There's a lot of weight goes right on this point of your chassis from the drawbar back to where it fully ties on. So always keep a good eye on the welds and anything, both on the outside. You can just double check everything for cracks and get up there and check on the inside as well. Because I do this regularly, and it's essential that it should be done regularly, double check everything that it's right. Another one here is your drop down legs. I always use a bit of inox on there on the bottom. It doesn't matter if the dust sticks to it a bit, but once you get up in there, and I've been guilty of it before, spraying some inox in there just to make sure that everything's lubricated. You never have enough lubrication on these parts of the systems to make sure it's stress free once you get to camp. Double check everything's safe and secure, welded, bolted, nuts are tight. I believe, I don't know about these ones, you can take the caps off at the end there and get some grease inside, but I've never had to do that. We've never had an issue with ours. Make sure they're all locked up, not going to bounce around and fall out. Make sure those pins are fully in before you travel. That's enough crawling around. not in the dirt. We're on a concrete driveway, but it's bad enough. If you're out in the bush, you'd be crawling around in the dirt doing this. So up the front, your gas bottles. Now I did find an issue here with ours when I changed the gas bottle yesterday. I took it off, took that one off to go and get filled, and I just double checked this one for movement, and it went like that. So since our last trip, pretty weak little screws, just screwing into, there's fiberglass, but there's timber behind that. They've just pulled out. So that's one maintenance thing that I do need to get onto, is remove this gas bottle and replace these couple of screws with some heavier duty screws, or possibly even some little bolt that go right through to the tunnel boot, and I can make sure it's 100% secure, because the roads we're going to be travelling ain't just bitumen roads. We're going to be bouncing around. As you can see, this bottle's been up Fraser Island a few times. Where we're going to be going, you don't want things rattling loose while we're away. We want to make sure that things are right, hopefully the best that we can possibly do before we do hit the road. So we'll put that one on the to-do list. Now your drawbar and your hitch, I'd always keep it covered to keep the weather off both your jockey wheel, because the water can get in there, and I keep this well and truly greased up with the inox. Same as your screw points, always keep them lubed up, but just got to watch what you use. If you're out dry, dusty conditions and all the dust sticks to that thread, you might have trouble undoing it next time. While we're up the front here, now we've got the wheel back on, we'll double check the handbrake, and that's one thing I forgot to do while we had it jacked up. I will do that again. Jack that wheel up and just spin it and make sure that your handbrake works. Even though it's not a big issue, I know the electric brakes work well, but it's nice to know that your handbrake works for those times where you might be parked on a little bit of a rise or a slope. You don't want to be rolling away in the middle of the night. But to fix that problem, so that you're not relying on that, is to make sure you chock your wheels front and back. I always do that on at least one side of the van to make sure it ain't going to roll anywhere. I know all the cables and plugs work, but I'd always check those and try and keep them covered and out of the weather, because it only takes the tiniest little bit of corrosion in there and it won't work properly. You'll start having indicators not working as they should, or your park lights or your brake lights, and you definitely don't want that. Plus with your other plugs going through feeding fridges and DC chargers, you want the best possible connection that you can have. So always keep those nice and tidy, and a bit of anti-corrosion stuff on there as well. Now back to the brakes again. I'm jumping around a bit here, sorry guys. Make sure that your breakaway system works properly too. I'll jack it up again and we'll do a test on that. You can just pull that plug. Say it's an emergency situation that's attached to your tow bar on your car. If the Caravan breaks away or something happens and it falls off the hitch, you will have your emergency change. But say your whole tow bar comes off, and I hope that never happens to anyone, but I have heard of it happening. It'll pull this pin out and force your electric brakes on, which that's a good one too, and should be essential in any pre-trip check to make sure that that breakaway system's charged. For one, it needs to be charged, and I'll show you that once we get inside the van, but need to make sure it's operational. So we'll go ahead and we'll test that right now. There, you can see there, the handbrake's not fully on, but to test that, we'll pull it on as if it was in the location that we wanted it to be. So that's fully on. The handbrake cables are tight. We'll double check that wheel shouldn't be able to move, but the wheel moves. What that usually means is we need a bit more tension on this cable. So that's an adjustment. You can get some adjustment out of it by adjusting this mechanism up the front here. We'll adjust that until those tyres, or that wheel, doesn't turn anymore with the handbrake fully on. So it means we need to screw that nut up so that it's sitting about there. I reckon it needs probably, at a guess, I haven't adjusted this one before, I'd say about there. So probably a bit over 5 mil, and we'll just try that. It will fully lock if it's going up to the fullest click, but you need some muscle to pull it on that far. So we'll just adjust that in the easiest way that I've found, because you can't just be turning that. So we've got that nut turned up to there. You grab this one here, and then you screw that back in. And you just want to make sure that your handbrake cables aren't too tight, because that'll be putting drag on while you're driving. You definitely don't want that. So we can try that where we are now. So that's about 2 clicks down from where it was. See if we can spin the wheel and just spin it. I'll just go a touch more on this. Tighten that lock nut back up. So they're definitely not tight while it's in travel mode, and they're not hanging down anywhere. Let's see how that goes. That's tighter than it was before, and that's handbrake is locked on. That's why we do these essential little DIY maintenance things. A simple check of the handbrake. Now we know that the handbrake's working 100%. And onto what is probably the next most critical thing in your whole setup, your hitch. We're running the DO35 Cruisemaster hitch. It's got the locking pin in there at the moment, so nobody can steal it. All I normally do, and you can see there's a bit of grease around the back there now, you don't want too much grease in there, but always make sure that it's well and truly lubricated so it allows it to swivel. That side, there is no way to lubricate that one that I know of. Once that pin's not in there, and you've got the other end of your DO35, I'll show you what I normally use, and this is well travelled, this can. Just a bit of white lithium grease inside there, and on the top part of your DO35 it goes onto the drawbar. And that's it, right? That's all there is to it. Maintaining the hitch, that's easy. But no, another critical one that you want to check is the tension on these bolts. Just making sure that those bolts are done up tight. You can see they've got paint marks on there and they haven't moved. You always want to keep a close eye on those because they can come loose. And I've done those a while ago. See the paint marks there? They haven't moved, so that is 100%. It's a good idea. A simple thing is having those paint marks on there. You can soon see if something's coming loose. It's like having wheel nut indicators. Yeah, those yellow pointy things that go on your wheel nuts, they look ugly, but they're there to serve a purpose. And a quick visual through your eyes, you can soon see if something's coming loose. So that's basically the front end of the van done. But hang on, we've missed something. Now, I did put together a bit of a checklist a while ago. If you'd like a copy of this quick tick and flick printable checklist, let us know in the comments and I can drop a copy of it there for you to print out and have a look at yourself, so that you don't miss anything like I just nearly did with checking the breakaway system. Now we know, take the handbrake off, that wheel will spin again. So say you're driving down the road doing 90 k's an hour and something happens and your van comes off. What's going to happen to this is, that's your breakaway plug. So that'll pull out. That should apply your emergency brakes. And obviously that's not working. So good idea to double check that your breakaway system is working at all times. I'll get straight onto that. I'll go and check inside what's going on. I just replaced the battery not long ago. The old battery, it's only a couple of years old, but it died. A little 7 amp hour deep cycle AGM battery. So possibly there's something going on there why the breakaway system isn't working. I'll investigate that a bit more and get back to you. So it turned out to be nothing major. All it was just needing to pull that plug, put the plug back in, and then pull it again. The second time it worked fine. So just a reminder that you need to be checking these things. A simple thing as that is not being used in a while can cause this issue. So up on the roof, a couple of quick things to check. Number one being, I know I've fitted these solar panels myself, but I always just give them a double check and make sure they're secure. You definitely don't want those blowing off when you're cruising down the highway doing 90 or 100 k's an hour. Another thing that I check is just the sealant. No need to check it before every time you go away, but every now and then when I'm up here, it does need a good clean at the moment. After all the rain we've had in southeast Queensland, everything's getting a bit algae and going mouldy. But just make sure everything's secure. The solar panels do need a really good clean, and that's one thing that I always make sure we're on top of is clean solar panels, because that maximises all that power from the sun going through into your batteries. So they just get dirty and dusty with a bit of bat poop on them and everything here, living in the suburbs. So that needs a good clean, but everything else is safe and secure. Now I will say, a while ago we installed the Cowfish Ventana A bit of feedback on that and how that's been working quickly. It works great. It works spot on. Just as good as the wine guard antenna, but it's not a magic antenna. It only works where you've got TV signal. I think a lot of people think that it's some sort of magic antenna that's just going to pull TV signal from nowhere, which it won't. It works great where you're in those areas where you have got normal TV signal, and it saves winding up the wine guard and pointing it in the right direction. With this working full 360 degrees, I installed that there a while ago. I'll pop that video on the screen now so you can check that video out. But overall, we're very happy with it, and it frees up all that space. And another video that I did a while ago, installing this extra solar panel, it frees up all that space, gives us another 170 watts of power going back into the batteries. But generally, the Cowfish antenna, very happy with it. Yes, it's not going to work out in those areas where you don't have TV signal, but where you have got TV signal, it works brilliantly. So that's about it for up on the roof. Like I said, you don't need to be checking this every time you go away, but I do like to know that the Caravan is all sealed up just in case something's come loose with your solar panels, with the sealing up the edges, just to make sure. Main one on the outside is your awning. Just making sure everything's in good condition. A little tip here, every time it's out or before I put it away, just get inside the grooves with a bit of silicone spray. It's magic stuff, just keeps everything working nice. But you want to check all the bolts, make sure everything's secure, and you'll get to camp and set up in no time when everything's lubricated. Being careful not to tighten these knobs up too much because they can break. Quick bit of maintenance with your toilet cassette. Every time we pull her out and empty it, it's empty now, get it out of there. All I do is use the original Thetford lubricant. Just give everything a bit of a squirt, and also do that inside. Quick bit of a squirt inside just makes everything run that bit nicer. Little bit on there, stick it back in, and that just keeps everything working nice. Give it a quick squirt inside on the bowl. Alright, one last thing. Hot water service inside there. I'll pop another video up that we did a while ago on water pumps and hot water systems and how to service it and how to change your anode, which I do need to do that again. It's been a good probably 12 months. I know you're supposed to do it every 6 months, but while it's been used, we haven't had any issues so far, and I know the last one was about 18 months old and getting well and truly down, so I'd say we get about 12 months out of it with the amount of use. But now that we're going to be using it even more, we do want to make sure that anode's fit for purpose. And we did have issues with this hot water system not long after we bought it. Found that it doesn't work real good on 240 volt, so got a spare element for it that we'll take with us on the road. Not that we're planning on using 240 too much, but it's there if we need to, or if I'm sitting or something and parked up and we can plug into power for a few weeks or months. So I will change that element out, but basically it's the same thing, making sure your gas is clean, the spiders haven't built any cobwebs in there, there's no ants nests in the burner, because that will affect your operation in a big way. But there's not a lot you can do there unless you're a licensed gas fitter. But just having your quick run your eyeballs over it and make sure everything's right. Make sure you know when your anode was changed, and it should be happy days. So we'll have a quick look inside at what we do to maintain inside. Now you will notice that I didn't have the van open. I had it locked so nobody could go in there, and that is purely because you don't want anybody in there, whether they're sleeping or walking in and out, while that Caravan sitting up on a jack. So I always keep the door locked and keep the keys with me. It's like isolating it so that nobody can possibly go inside and bounce around while it's sitting up on that jack. So the first thing, and a very important one that you want to maintain on any caravan, motorhome, camper trailer, is right here at the door. Bang, there it is, your fire extinguisher. In case of emergency, that's the first thing you're going to be looking for, so you want to make sure that it's ready for service, ready for action. Make sure it's full, and occasionally I'll take it out of there and just give it a bit of a shake up. Tip it upside down, give it a bit of a knock on the end to loosen up all that dry powder inside, so you know it's going to work when you need it. Checking your smoke alarms as well. Now we've got two in here. That's the old original one from the factory. Always check the batteries, make sure they're ready to go. This one here was a second one. You might ask why we've got 2 smoke alarms in such a small caravan. Well, this one here is where the old wine guard handle used to go to wind the TV antenna up. We don't need that anymore, so that left us with a hole in the roof. So the best solution was just to fit a second smoke alarm to cover the hole, and that's one of the new ones as well, which I believe is now law. You got to have the photogenic ones, photoelectric ones, whatever they're called. I believe that's law now in Australia to have those ones over the old ones. They're old school, and if you have one of those in your caravan, just check the laws, but I'm pretty sure you've got to have one of the new type. Now your electrical system, we touched on that out on the drawbar, as having a good connection from your tow vehicle into those cables coming through into your van for your tail lights and everything else on the outside. But having that charge cable come through if you've got a DC-DC charger fitted, and 12 volt running through to your fridge, but making sure everything is connected and safe and secure on your battery system. So ours is tucked up here under the bed. Just make sure everything's tight, connected, no corrosion, the cables haven't been hot or melted or anything like that. They're secure, they're strapped in, everything looks good, all the fuses are right. You'll soon know if you've got a blown fuse when something doesn't work. Also got the 3000 watt inverter there, and that box there, that is an RVD, which works on an isolated 240 volt power. Because you're not grounded using an inverter, I believe you've got to have one of those, which is your safety switch in case something goes wrong and you don't get electrocuted from your inverter. And that is because we've had this all professionally wired in by a certified electrician. We've got this switch here to go from mains power to inverter power. So when you're on inverter power, your RCD that's used when you're connected to shore power, that won't work and won't trip if you're using your inverter 240 volt. That's why we wired in this RVD to make sure that we're all safe and every power point in the van is live. We can even run the air conditioner off of that. Not that we do much, but that just makes sure that we're 100% protected. And if your battery system's all safe and secure in there, just double check your power. Make sure you have got plenty of power. Before you head off on your trip, make sure your water tanks are full and enjoy the adventure. Little quick tip, I think I've mentioned it in the video before, is this very inexpensive hack that I've done here. All that is a bit of 25mm pipe which slips over your strut, rests up against there. Because we've got a bit bigger and heavier mattress on our bed frame, it just stops it slipping down. So when it goes up, it just locks in there. There's no way your bed can drop down on your head. I just took the end off of the strut, slid that bit of pipe on, put the end back onto the mount, and all you need to do to drop your bed down is just let it slide back inside. Quick and easy. You can thank me later for that one. Another one for inside is just have a good look around everywhere for water damage. Do that just about every day when we're in the van. But if you're in storage or something for a while, parked up for a couple of months before you use your van again, just have a quick look around everywhere. Definitely don't want any water damage. Now, we have got a few ants in here at the moment, trying to get on top of those and find where they're coming from or where they're nesting. We do keep getting this stuff here in the shower. If that's something to do from the ants, I don't know, but it just keeps coming. I hope it's not borers, but there's nowhere up there where they might be coming from. So if anybody can tell me, let us know in the comments if you've ever had that in your van where you keep getting this dusty stuff. There's 2 or 3 spots in the van where we keep coming across this. A little bit there at the door as well. So maybe the ants are in here somewhere and they're nesting or whatever. But that's a good point, and that's another one to check for, is that your van hasn't been infested with ants or bugs of some sort while it has been in storage or parked up for any duration of time. This has only been 2 weeks since we've been out in it, and the ants are still in here somewhere, so I'll be out with the Talon, which, if I've still got it here, it's your little syringe you get from Woolies and that type of thing. Put a couple dobs of that down. They apparently take it back to the nest and kills the whole nest, but I haven't been able to get on top of the nest yet. I've killed probably quite a few thousand ants, but we haven't found where they're coming from. So if you can let us know what that might be, thank you very much. Another one inside, a bit of routine maintenance. You'll soon know if something's not right. Is all your door hinges, your drawer catches. If something's not right and your catches aren't adjusted right, or the screws are coming out of your slides, you'll soon know. But you want to make sure that they're secure for when you are on those roads. You don't want to leave them open. You don't want them bouncing around because you're out on a rough corrugated road and it's doing that. There ain't going to be much left of your drawer by the time you get there. Now, the only problem we have with our Caravan, this is getting off topic a little bit, it's not really maintenance related, but this here is the biggest waste of space on a Jayco Caravan. If anybody can offer any suggestions on how you've improved this area, I've looked at putting one of those little slide out things, but you're going to reduce the space even more. So to make that usable, if you've got any suggestions or know of a solution so that you can use all that space, because when it's packed you can't get in there, you just cannot reach to the back, you got to pull everything out to get to it. So if you can let us know if you've got a solution for that pokey little cupboard which is a waste of space, let us know. Alright, other things inside, things that could go wrong. I've heard horror stories of microwaves coming out, fridges coming loose. We haven't been out for a couple of weeks because we've been busy working, but just making sure that everything is secure. But that's pretty much it, the basics inside the van. If you're on those rough and corrugated roads like the Gibb River Road or something, just want to double check everything. So for a couple of hours work of completing your essential caravan maintenance, that'll ensure, number one, you're safe, number two, it'll minimise any breakdowns on the side of the road, and number three, you'll get to camp or wherever you're staying and enjoy your time a lot more, being stress-free, knowing that everything's maintained to the best of your ability, or if you get a professional to do it at extra cost, a lot of this stuff you can do yourself and save yourself some dollars. But for that quick bit of time, you don't have to do it before every trip. It just helps to run over the simple things. You don't have to be doing wheel bearings between trips, but every couple of months I just like to check them, jack the wheels up and just check it. You don't have to be pulling everything apart, and keep an eye on those bearing temperatures as you drive them. Just put your hand on there, make sure everything's warm but definitely not hot. So I hope this little video has helped you out a little bit with a bit of useful information. You probably already know a lot of it, but I hope it's helped somebody in some way or another. If it has, please give us a big thumbs up, show us a little bit of love and a bit of support, and the biggest help you can give us is hitting that red subscribe button. That helps us out more than you know. We really appreciate all the support we can get, as well as supporting us in the way of comments. Let us know what you're thinking, if there's anything you'd like to see coming up next. There's lots of videos already out there on our trips, but let us know if there's something that you'd like to see in an upcoming video. So thanks for watching, guys. Better get organised here, we're heading away soon. We'll see you out there on the road when we're living the caravan lifestyle on the next Brandyscape adventure. Be sure to check out these other videos that are coming up on the screen now. Thanks guys, take care and stay safe.